¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the third Wednesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Wednesday morning. How's it Wednesday morning? Wednesday evening. How's it going, Heat? I'm still used to saying morning. I just got off work, okay? Y'all gotta cut me some slack. Can always count on work to be done after 5 p.m. even though I'm scheduled till 5. Today we will have to go the normal time. So I won't. I do have a hard stop about 7:30ish. So I gotta make sure that we cover everything that we need to cover before I head on out. All right, folks. Tomorrow, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do tomorrow. I think we might have to skip the stream tomorrow because I'm having a good friend come over, and so we might not be able to do the stream tomorrow. We'll see. There's like a good chance that I won't be able to. If that is the case, then I will do a live replay of an interview that I have that we did a while ago with the Beckosphere, because we also will be having the Beckosphere on next Wednesday, August 3rd, I want to say. August 3rd. August 3rd. So mark your calendars, folks. Next Wednesday, we will have the Beckosphere on again, and it will be cool. It'll be awesome. You birthday hungover? No. I'm just kind of triggered that I had to stay until 5:15. I didn't do much for my birthday. I spent most of yesterday evening talking to people who called me, talking to my parents, talking to my family. I got a call from a very good friend in the middle of the stream, so I had to call them back, and I had the drummer of A Difficult Truth call me too. So I had I spent the majority of the evening after the stream just kind of going through a round robin of calls. That's basically what it was. What emote is this? Carl smile? Huh. Okay. Carl Sagan? I knew that. Oh, yeah. It is Carl Sagan. I see it now. I knew that, of course. All right, that never happened. Okay. Delete the last 30 seconds or so. Carl says millions and millions of stars. Yes, an infinite amount of stars. Billions. Trillions. An infinite amount of stars, as the universe is infinite itself. Gazillions. All right. I think we have pretty much everything we need to get this show on the road. Hi from Spring Valley, New York. Howdy. We kick things off with a quick one. Federal Reserve officials have increased interest rates for the fourth time in 2022. Yep. The Fed has raised the benchmark interest rate by 0.75 for a second straight time in its most aggressive drive in 3 decades. Yikes. Buckle up, folks. This is going to be a wild ride. How's the weather in New York? I bet it's hot, if I had to take a guess. Like, if I had to take a guess, I would say it's probably hot. Alright, folks, we got everything ready to go here. By the way, folks, to give you lore for those of you that haven't heard, if you notice that I play a certain outro song at the end of every stream, that's actually a song by a band that was formed by my drummer, and I also coincidentally played in that band, and he sometimes stops by. If you ever see the username Nowhere Man, That's his song. That's his song. Monkeypox people need to protect their skin on planes. It seems that monkeypox, generally speaking, is transmissible through touch, I guess. Especially if they have like boils or whatever it is that they have, the rash. Then it's transmissible. But yeah. Ghost Dog TV. Long time no see. Howdy. Howdy, howdy. All right, folks. Let's start here. Senate passes massive package to boost U.S. computer chip production. The Senate on Wednesday approved a sweeping package aimed at boosting domestic production of computer chips and helping the U.S. stay competitive with China. The 64-33 vote represents a rare bipartisan victory. A little more than 3 months before the crucial November midterms, 17 Republicans joined all 50 Dems. Joined all the Dems in voting yes. The package known as the Chips Plus now heads to the House, which is expected to pass by the end of the week and send it to President Biden's desk for his signature. We are on the brink of another generation of American ingenuity, of American discovery, American leadership. By passing our Chips and Science Bill today, the Senate says yes, we are, in a loud, bipartisan voice. Today, by approving one of the largest investments in science, technology, and manufacturing in decades, we say that America's best years are yet to come. Well,
$140.
These ads, I tell ya. Come on.
Do not go home for August recess until you have passed the CHIPS Act.
What he is telling you point blank is who is the puppet and who is the puppeteer.
In one of the most impressive floor speeches I've seen in some time, Independent Senator Bernie Sanders made a forceful but nuanced critique of the microchip bill as it passed a key bipartisan vote in the Senate. So I have several clips to get to, and they are incredible. This is one of those classic, instant classic Bernie Sanders speeches. Now, it may sound boring on its face, the speech about the CHIPS bill, but I'm telling you, you have to stay to watch some key moments from this 20-minute speech. I'm going to break it down.
We did watch this.
The most important aspects of the speech, and you'll see why it's important, as this is a great representation of what is wrong with Washington politics, and Bernie, of course, makes that connection in this speech as well.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you the TLDR. I didn't watch his analysis of this, but I'll give you the TLDR. The point is, this is a gift to the large corporations who are raking in record profit. Yeah. If you want really the underlying breakdown of what's going on here.
As well. And I'll also get to my last clip, not part of the speech, but it gives you a great example of what is wrong in terms of this bill in particular, but also, again, what is wrong with how corrupt Washington is. So first, let me get to Bernie setting the stage here for what this bill is all about.
This shortage is, in fact, costing American workers good-paying jobs and raising prices for families. And that is why I personally strongly support the need to expand U.S. microchip production. But the question that we should be asking is this: should American taxpayers provide the microchip industry with a blank check of over $76 billion at the same exact time when semiconductor companies are making tens of billions of dollars in profits and paying their CEOs exorbitant compensation packages? That really is one of the questions that we should be asking, and I think the answer to that is a resounding no. This is an enormously profitable industry.
All right, so this speech picks up quite a bit, as you're going to see, but I had to show you this part because it gives you an idea that Bernie is in support of addressing the issue of the microchip shortage.
Yes, so we actually did watch. The speech. It's just so frustrating because like they passed it. They gave what's minimum a $50 billion freebies, essentially $50 billion freebie in subsidies for domestic semiconductor manufacturing and research. While these companies have posted much more in profits. If Schumer likes it, I'm skeptical. Yeah, the reasons why Schumer likes it. Anyways. Supporters on Capitol Hill, as well as key members of Biden's cabinet, have argued that making microchips at home is critical to U.S. national security, especially when it comes to chips used for weapons and military equipment. The package also includes tens of billions of more in authorization for science and research programs, as well as regional technology hubs around the country. The CBO said Chips Plus would cost nearly $80 billion over the next decade. Where are we gonna get the money for this? Who's gonna pay for this?
That isn't the problem here. The problem is this corporate giveaway without any actual strings attached. And that's why he had an amendment, which of course the industry fought against, as of course Congress did, as an arm of the industry. And I'll get to what he asked for in a second here, but just quickly on this bill, what's in it, what it's about. So as AP News reports here, bill to boost semiconductor industry passes key Senate test, as I told you. So it passed in a 64-32 vote. Every single Democrat voted for it. Of course, Bernie's an independent. He voted against it, meaning including people like Elizabeth Warren, who has been critical in the past of Silicon Valley. But when it comes to this, she's totally on board for this corporate giveaway. So it's important to recognize who is willing to, buck the trend here, who is willing to stand out against their colleagues on principle and fighting for what is right and who isn't. So Elizabeth Warren, again, I'm not trying to single her out here, but she talks a big game. When it comes down to it, is not willing to put the fight out there the way that Bernie is. Now, the bill provides about $52 billion in grants and other incentives for the semiconductor industry, as well as a 25% tax credit for those companies that build chip plants or fabs in the U.S. The cost of the tax break is projected to be about $24 billion over 10 years. The bill also authorizes about $200 billion to enhance scientific research over the same time frame. But the Congressional Budget Office has projected...
Who's going to pay for it? Jesus.
The bill would increase deficits by about $79 billion over 10 years. Critics have objected to the spending called for in the bill, either as misplaced or excessive. So, any other...
the correct word is misplaced. The correct word is misplaced. Don't ask unless it's helping people. True.
Bill that addressed healthcare, expanded healthcare, childcare, dealt with an investment into renewable energies, dealing with the climate crisis, anything to actually help people and society that would increase deficits by $79 billion over 10 years would be ripped to shreds by people like Joe Manchin, by the entire GOP, by most Democrats. Yet here, this passes with the entirety of the Democratic Party, including Joe Manchin, who cares so much about deficits, and also Republicans on board as well. A bipartisan bill, because it helps massive corporations with no strings attached. That's why. And Bernie will get a lot more into that. But he tried to address that with an amendment to the bill. So this.
Hey everybody, it's Mark Kelly. I just landed.
Whoa.
Was changes to the CHIPS Act, which cleared a key procedural hurdle in the Senate Tuesday evening, would prohibit companies that receive subsidies under the bill from using the funds to buy back their own stock, offshore U.S. jobs, or crack down on unionization efforts. The senator argues that no strings attached giveaways to the microchip industry would amount to corporate welfare. So first, I want to be clear. These changes are not going to be in the bill. So this sentence is kind of confusing at the beginning, but they're talking about the CHIPS Act itself. So I showed you the vote. That's what they're talking about, that key procedural hurdle. So the CHIPS Act has passed that hurdle. The Bernie changes have not. They're not going to be in the bill, asking to ensure that these corporations don't buy back their own stock, asking to ensure they don't offshore jobs, asking to ensure they don't crack down on unions. This is why these companies have fought against these changes, because they know they are going to do these things. And the entirety, or most of Congress, I should say, is on board with this garbage. It is unfreaking believable that this is just a clear and obvious giveaway to this industry. Nothing else, no other area that would actually help people would have these sorts of no strings attached money. Nothing else.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, he brings up a good point. He brings up a good point. And furthermore, I would say that it's not unbelievable. Seems par for the course, yeah. Donors are owners, true.
But when it comes to this, it just, they can do whatever the hell they want with this cash, despite the fact that they're incredibly profitable. They can make these investments themselves. These companies don't need this money. But here they are for this giveaway, no strings attached, and will do every single thing that Bernie is telling them not to do.
100%.
Now, let me set up the next clip here. So this has to do with Mitt Romney. So Mitt Romney is among the likely Republican supporters, and yes, he voted for it. Asked about the Sanders argument against the bill, Romney said that when other countries subsidize the manufacturing of high technology chips, the U.S. must join the club. The U.S. must join the club. Well, Bernie takes this line and runs with it.
Let's join the club. Let's do what not only every major country on earth does in terms of guaranteeing paid family and medical, what virtually all countries, including some of the poorest in the world, do. But I gather problem is that to join those clubs, in terms of universal health care, in terms of paid family and medical leave, in terms of free tuition in public colleges and universities, we're going to have to take on powerful special interests. And they make campaign contributions. That's not what the Senate does. But when it comes to joining the club with other countries giving blank checks to large corporations, that's a club that unfortunately many of my colleagues here feel comfortable in joining.
Isn't it amazing that Mitt Romney made that point and doesn't see the conflict with any other area where he is not willing to join the club?
Right.
It is just, again, and it's not just Romney. This is almost the entirety of the Senate. This just exposes their corruption. That they will join the club when it comes to corporate giveaways, but when it comes to anything else to help people, not joining the club. So again, look, if this investment was made and, Americans already had universal health care, already had paid family medical leave, already had real investments into the climate crisis, already had, all of these things that actually help people, already had tuition-free college, then yeah, I guess this wouldn't be as big of a deal as it isn't in other countries that already have those things. But when you have this sort of investment and you don't have investments into anything else, it shows you what the U.S. Congress is there to do. Simply help massive corporations get even further ahead while squeezing the poor and middle class.
Yeah, that's the underlying problem here is the capitalisms. That's what's going on here. It's the capitalisms.
So let me get to the next clip now, and this is where Bernie adds some historical context to this corporate giveaway.
This is really quite amazing. Over the last 20 years, the microchip industry has shut down over 780 manufacturing plants and other establishments in the United States and eliminated 150,000 American jobs while moving most of its production overseas. And by the way, they did that after they received a federal grant and loans.
Yep. I mean, like, that's exactly what happens every single time. Every single time. You give these companies a bunch of freebies, and lo and behold, it goes back into their executives' pockets. That can be in the form of CEO bonuses, in the form of stock buybacks, never to improve or increase pay, investments in R&D, nothing like that.
Smaller than what we are talking about today. So, here is the absurd situation that we're in. The crisis is caused by the industry shutting down in America and moving abroad.
Correct.
And today what we are doing is saying,
Because of the capitalisms, it's that's how it goes, right? You're encouraged to do these type of things, so long as it produces a profit, so long as the line goes up for the shareholders, then so be it.
we are going to give you a blank check to undo the damage.
So do you see how insane this is? This industry, these massive corporations, they're the ones that offshored these jobs. And
Right.
now they're demanding Congress to pass this bill so that they get this free money to then invest into the very jobs that they themselves eliminated.
Right. There's only that's correct. There's only one word to describe this, and it's absurdity. It's absurd.
So it's just pure benefit for them. They offshore the jobs, they make massive profits because they offshore these jobs, and now they get even more cash to help create new jobs that they themselves may be offshored later because there was no guarantees, there was no strings attached in the bill.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, the cycle repeats, right? I mean, like, this happened during the Trump years, too, right? Trump gave a bunch of freebies to, I think, oh man, I forgot what was the name of the company, but it was a company, I think, of air conditioning or something like that. I think it was called, it started with a C. Carrier, I believe, is the name. And they promised, of course, word of mouth, no strings attached. They promised that if they managed to get a some sort of tax break or something like that through, that they would keep hundreds of jobs. I think it was like just under 1,000 jobs, and they passed it. They passed it, and they ended up shutting those jobs down. They ended up shutting those jobs down and keeping the tax freebies. I like Pie. How's it going? Hey, who are we watching? It looks familiar. It does, doesn't it?
It is completely insane. And this is just a Tuesday. Like, this is a normal day in Congress. This is how things work. This is the only thing that gets passed is when it helps massive corporations. When there's a bipartisan bill, it's only to benefit massive corporations.
True. That seems to be a trend. And I would also like to reiterate that when Bernie did this speech, we watched it. Now I'm remembering now. We watched it. It's about 20 minutes, and he was speaking to a empty Senate. What seemed to be like an empty Senate, right? I mean, you could look at it from the clips. There's like nobody right there. Look at the little thumbnail. Nobody there. Yeah, David Doe.
I dare you to find one that doesn't. Find me a bipartisan bill from the past 10 years that does not help massive corporations in some way. And Bernie, the only one calling it out. Republicans that are against this bill are against it because it's a Joe Biden bill. They don't actually care about what Bernie's talking about here. Bernie's the only one laying this out and trying to propose changes to the bill that, of course, are not going to be adopted. So just quickly on some examples here before we get to the next clip on what he's talking about. So he goes on to discuss how Intel offshored a bunch of jobs from New Mexico.
I'm not sure if he did tax cuts on McDonald's. I'm thinking of the Carrier story. In fact, here, I'll look it up for you folks. Carrier Global. Oh, yeah, here it is. I'm from the town that lost all these Intel jobs. Jeez. Yeah, this was the original story. My parents weren't employed there, but my uncle was? Jeez. Oh, I see. Okay. Oh my god. So... So here's the timeline of this story. In February, Carrier threatened or was announcing that it was going to move 1,400 jobs to Monterrey, Mexico. And by December, there was a deal made that they would get 7 million 7 million in tax breaks to keep the jobs specifically in Indiana. So it looks like they ended up saving the jobs in this particular set in Indiana. But they ended up just laying people off in other areas. Oh, 2 years later. Never mind. So those jobs didn't end up staying, I guess. Because in 2018... In 2018, they did 3 waves of layoffs. Or 2 waves of layoff. Letting go more than 200 employees. Hundreds of carrier jobs will remain in Indianapolis, but Elliott and others argued that those jobs, many office space, not the manufacturing line, were never in jeopardy. So yeah. Anyways. Hey Astro, how's it going? I'm getting closer and closer to be a doomer. Hey, IRI's community unbanned you. We were going over unbanned requests and we voted and you're back in the club. Congratulations, Astra. Anyways, so it ended up being half-truths and half-kept promises. But hey, they got $7 million out of just one deal.
Texas Instruments as well, a bunch of jobs there, and Micron Technology, more layoffs there. All these companies offshoring jobs and now begging for this corporate giveaway while they themselves are incredibly profitable and could make these investments themselves. Now let me get to the next clip where Bernie goes more in on the corporate bailout here, or the corporate handout in this bill.
It is estimated in total that 5 major semiconductor companies will receive the lion's share of this taxpayer handout: Intel, Texas Instruments, Micron Technology, Global Foundries, and Samsung. These 5 companies alone made $70 billion in profits.
Yeah, but what we need is a heavier hand when it comes to regulation. That's what we need. We need heavier regulation. I'm such a horrible lib. I don't know what you could do to get banned in what you did to get banned in IRIs, but there you go. Congratulations.
I find it interesting that I've heard senators here on the floor talk about entitlements. When we help working people, when we help poor people, there are all kinds of requirements: work requirements, reporting requirements, drug testing requirements. You name the requirements when the federal government helps working people or low-income people. Well, what are the requirements attached to this handout for large profitable corporations? The answer is 0.
True. True.
A corrupt political system works, and I hope everybody understands it. Over the past 20 years, Intel has spent over $100 million on lobbying and campaign contributions. That's a lot of money, $100 million. But this is what a corrupt political system is about. For $100 million in lobbying and campaign contributions, they're going to get at least $20 billion in corporate welfare. That, I would argue, is a pretty good investment. And that's what goes on here, not only with the microchip industry, it goes on with the pharmaceutical industry, the fossil fuel industry, the insurance industry. Huge amounts of money in lobbying and campaign contributions. The pharmaceutical industry has 1,500 paid lobbyists right now.
Nice.
Right here in Washington, D.C.,
nice.
Which is why we pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs.
All right. So Bernie here lays it out, makes the connections to the other industries like fossil fuels, like healthcare, how there are these massive investments into lobbying for these industries in millions, but then it pays off for them in billions. And that's why they make those investments. That's why they buy these politicians. That's why Congress works for massive companies and not.
Yeah, like the idea that these companies aren't spending this money to lobby and they're not getting anything out of it. That's not how this works. That's not how this works. There's a reason why they spend tens and tens of millions and millions and millions, whatever the sum of money is, lobbying government, right? Because it works. It works and it pays off.
Not for people. And I just want to hit on one other point that he makes there about how there's no strings attached here for this money yet. When it comes to anything else, when it comes to actually helping people, there's always means testing. There's always strings attached. An example of that, a perfect example of that, is Biden's potential plan to cancel some student debt. Some student debt. So people that take out student loans are people that need help to pay for school. So any sort of help for them, these people are not millionaires. These people need student loans because they need help to pay for school. Well, even in the discussion about canceling maybe $10,000 in student debt, even within that discussion, there is a further discussion about means testing that. So this was a great piece by David Sirota and Andrew Perez here in The Guardian, how Biden isn't serious about forgiving student debt, means testing is a con. So even when it comes to canceling student debt for people that need the help, again, millionaires are not going to college, or no, they are going to college, but they're paying for it. They don't need student loans. People that get out student loans, they need the help. Means testing just 10 grand. Yet when it comes to this industry, microchips, the amount of money these companies make they're currently making, the profits they have, the bonuses the CEO gets, all of this money that this industry has, they get this blank check, no strings attached. Yet, kids out of school, how to take up student loans.
Must be nice. Our annual home fuel bill has gone from 1.3 to next year about 4K. Yeah.
To go to school, they get no help at all. Or what little help they get, they have to ensure that this person really deserves the help. The whole thing is a freaking con. It is just completely insane how corrupt Congress is.
True.
And the way everything operates, the way the media operates, the way the media discusses these issues. Because they're not calling any of this out. If they're so concerned about not wasting any money, if they're so concerned about deficits, why aren't they calling this garbage out? Why are they only calling it out or only addressing this issue of spending too much when it comes to actually helping people? But corporate giveaways, blank check, who cares? Absolutely insane.
Ha.
Let's get to the last Bernie clip. So he quoted the Intel CEO in his speech. So instead of quoting him, I'm going to show you the actual quote from the Intel CEO on CNBC, and then Bernie's response to the Intel CEO.
But my message to our congressional leaders is, hey, if I'm not done with the job, I don't get to go home. Neither should you. Do not go home for August recess until you have passed the CHIPS Act. Because
do not go home for August recess until you give me a small loan of tens of billions of dollars. Basically a free check.
I and others in the industry will make investment decisions. And do you want those investments in the U.S.? Or are we simply not competitive in this to do them here? And we need to go to Europe or Asia for those. Get the job done. Do not go home for August recess without getting these bills passed.
Yeah, and then you do it anyways. You'll if it makes more profit for you, you'll F us anyways.
What he is telling you point blank is who is the puppet and who is the puppeteer. Don't go home this August until you give us $176 billion, because if you don't do that, we're going to go to Asia and we're going to go to Europe. That's the state of American politics. And not only American politics, I would say. It's equally true in other countries who are also held hostage by large multinational corporations.
He is telling you who is the puppet and who is the puppeteer. This is the perfect cherry on top to this speech. A perfect
Why can't he dress better and get some charisma? Hey, don't dunk on the suit. He's got a regular suit on. His hair's a little bit disheveled, but you know. I think he's got plenty of charisma.
Congress is for how they operate. It's a puppet show. So the lawmakers are the puppets, corporations are the puppeteers. Now, last piece here. This was the clip that is not part of the speech that I saved for the end. This has to do with Nancy Pelosi and this bill. So Nancy Pelosi's husband buys millions of dollars worth of NVIDIA stock, the chip maker, ahead of vote on chip manufacturing bill.
Nice.
Just so happens. They're not talking about it at all. They don't know. There's no connection here. He just so happened to make these investments in NVIDIA, and just as the time that they're going to pass this bill, and there's going to be a huge, massive bonus for
oh, look at that.
Well, let me play.
Jesus. July 26th. That was yesterday. On my birthday. Yeah, I disagree. I think he has charisma. It's because people are worthless. Drains on the economy and corporations are the real people worthy of unlimited government spending. True. Have you talked about the DOJ criminal probe into Trump? I didn't hear much. I think that happened today. I think we have something here. Yeah, I think we have something queued up here. Congratulations on surviving another year. True. Thank you, Maple Leaf Dragon. I appreciate that.
How Nancy, or this video of Nancy Pelosi responding to a question about, does she talk to her husband about any of this stuff?
One more, he said. Yes, sir.
Maybe we think of charisma different things. Well, charisma is subjective, right? Like, well, it's not really. Okay, so generally speaking, like, charisma is something that you either you have charisma. Some people may feel that some people have charisma and some people don't. You know. Interesting, Nvidia is from Taiwan, and I believe she's signaling that she's going there too. Cool, I'll stick around. Hey.
Made a stock purchase or sale based on information he's received from you.
What are you saying?
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information he received from you?
No, absolutely not. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Have you ever seen a worse lie in your life? And of course, it's not just Pelosi, it's a lot of these individuals. Of course, they work on insider information. That's why a lot of investors follow Nancy Pelosi's husband.
Yeah. Oh man, that second thought video was really good. How Congress, just like members of Congress and the Senate, members in the government are very, very successful at investment. Just out of pure luck, I guess. They just must be that good that their investments yield unusual returns.
Because it works out for them. Because obviously there's a connection here. Obviously they are talking about this. I mean, the look on her face, the reaction she made, the fact that she was so bad at answering this question and her obvious reaction gave away that she was lying shows you how often or not often this question is asked of them. They are very rarely actually challenged on this issue. So here you have a very clear question with a very obvious answer, and Nancy Pelosi has to ask it twice, or ask the person again to repeat the question to collect her thoughts about how she's going to answer the question, because she knows, of course, he makes investments based on what she knows. Oh my God. And this is, of course, just another part of the corruption. You know, the one part is the bills, the other part is how they actually get rich. It really is all insane. But you have one person, one person in the Senate, Bernie Sanders, standing tall, calling it out. And I really hope, you know, they can add to these numbers in the future. But so far to only have one person in the Senate calling out how corrupt this institution is, you know, it's great to see it, that somebody is there to call it out, but it's so sad that this is how it operates, and there is very little pushback from either lawmakers or the media against it.
Huh.
When the supply chain slows down, it hurts everyone.
Yes, that's true. Corruption is the norm, so when do the people stop putting up with it? I don't know. At what point do we say enough, enough is enough? Nvidia is specifically relevant because she just made a lot of money off their stock in the chip spill. Must be nice. I figured, but what else is new? They won't prosecute Pelosi or her hubby, so yeah, that's true. I seriously doubt that, like, at the end of the day, people like her, I don't know. I don't see her getting clapped for insider trading like that other dude. But hey, I mean, anyways, so that's the breakdown of this CHIPS Act and how the media is trying to tell us that this is a boost to computer chip production. Well, there's an asterisk to that, and that asterisk is it's tens of billions of dollars of freebies that come with that with no strings attached. I think the media should be a little bit more honest with that. But what if we're vegetarian? I could make exceptions. Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yep. right, let's talk about this. Jews and non-Christians are not conservative because it is an explicitly Christian movement and because the US is an explicitly Christian country, says Andrew Torba, the CEO of Gab, which is a Nazi cesspool, essentially. I don't know if you guys have ever been on Gab. I recommend you do not go on that site. It is a hell site. It is basically a extension. It's like a Twitter for 4chan people. It's like if all the 4chan people were allowed to have a Twitter, that's what Gab is. That's basically what Gab is. Gab is like a Nazi cesspool that can only be described as a Twitter for 4chan. And the CEO of Gab is basically a Nazi Christo-fascist, theo-fascist, as now I'm trying to remember that word, is a theo-fascist, making statements like this. I mean, like, this is as mask off as it is, right? This is as mask off as it is. Just off work and in a weird mood. Well. Same. Gab, I heard of Gap. Like, I was like, the Gap is full of Nazis? I don't know. You tell me. I haven't been to the Gap in a bajillion years. Hey, DT, I just got an alert that whoever is in Gab is screwed because they got hacked. Yikes. I made a fake account. I made a fake account on Gab to see what was going on there. It's a Nazi cesspool. What kind of information? I didn't put anything like personal. Is the Gap even a thing? Yeah, it is. I think. I just went there now, never knowing about it, and ran out. Yeah. Yeah, I see, like, they were hacked, in 2021. Bunch of DMs and profile information. Passwords. But I don't think I gave anything too personal in that website. Jesus Christ. The first thing I see is an Andrew Torba post saying that on... you guys have to actually see this. Gab CEO Andrew Torba on Jews. We're done being told what we're allowed to do in our own country by a 2% minority. Jesus Christ. This guy is like a straight up freaking Nazi. This guy is a straight up Nazi. Yeah. Cool. Straight Up Nazi owns a platform that hosts quite a bit of people. Nice. Pretty much any social media site, if you declare it to be a platform for unrestricted free speech, it's about 24 to 48 hours before it becomes a steaming pile of ultra-right-wing garbage and a haven for the clinically insane. Cool. All right. So we just deleted that. Pretty much, yeah. Essentially, if you just give free reign, and you don't stop these people, yeah, they just kind of take over. So anyways, the setup is, yeah, Nazi owns massive platform that allows more Nazi shit to proliferate. And okay, so, you know, the setup is Nazi dude owns a lot of, owns a huge, well, not huge, but he owns a decently enough sized platform full of Nazis, and yeah, he's a consultant for State Senator Doug Mastriano, a Republican candidate for governor of Pennsylvania. This dude is going to be a candidate for governorship. Yeah. This guy is going to be a candidate for governorship. So he's a moderate. The Republican candidate for governor of Pennsylvania, in a live stream responding to recent condemnations of Mastriano and Gab. Mastriano has come into the public eye in recent weeks after U.S. media outlets reported that he had spent $5,000 on advertising on Gab, a social media network favored by the far right and Nazis. The candidate has also reportedly paid for campaign consulting from the platform, which reports that new Gab users are set to automatically follow him. Jesus. So yeah, this guy is someone who knows his base, and it's getting consultation from a literal Nazi. Both Republicans and Democrats have called on Mastriano to withdraw his ad campaign on the social media platform, but he's not going to do that, and the Republican Party doesn't care. Torba claimed that many other candidates are running ad campaigns on Gab, although he didn't name any candidates. Gab is based in PA. This is the most important election of 2022 midterms because Doug is an outspoken Christian and a Nazi, probably, or at least very comfortable with the idea of being helped by Nazis. Complaining about the reports condemning Gab, yes, a Nazi cesspool, and Mastriano's decision to buy advertising on a Nazi cesspool site, we're going to build the coalition of Christian nationalists. Hello, alarm bells. Alarm bells should be ringing at this time. Remember, Marjorie Taylor Greene the other day said that she is a proud Christian nationalist. Yeah. So, once again, I am beating the dead horse, metaphorically, as to why the Republican Party is just incompatible with democracy. I give you example 254,558 billion 300,076 as to why the Republican Party is incompatible with democracy. We're going to build a coalition of Christian nationalists, Christians, of Christian candidates at the state, local, and federal levels, and we're going to take this country back for the glory of God. This is some Christian dominionist shit. Like I said, these conservatives can and will employ a theocratic authoritarian state. They are theo-fascist. Do not underestimate these people. That's nice. Jews are the children of Satan. Nice. A verified account, I'm assuming, on Gab. Yeah. Oh, this is the Pittsburgh shooter. Oh, shoot. I didn't know that. Who had a Gab account? Wow. Are Nazis fundamentally anti-Christian though? Not necessarily. Not really. I think it was actually a part of their strategy to control, because that's what Christianity is useful for. Yeah, it is scary, and it should be scary. My policy is not to conduct interviews with reporters who aren't Christian or with outlets who aren't Christian, and Doug has very similar media strategy where he does not interview with these people. He does not talk to these people. He does not give press access to these people, said the Gab founder, a neo-Nazi, or just a straight-up Nazi. These people are dishonest. They're liars. They're a den of vipers. They want to destroy you. My typical conversation with them when they email me is, repent and accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. I take it as an opportunity to try and convert them to Nazism. Torba called Mastriano's opponent, Josh Shapiro, a Soros puppet. The Jewish people, of course. And reiterated that he was involved in voter fraud in the 2020 election. Torba stressed that Mastriano's answers only to Jesus Christ. This is a Christian movement, full stop. He's going to turn this state around for the glory of God. That is the mission here, folks. We can't have this populism, Inc., or pseudo-conservatism. What exactly have conservatives conserved? This isn't a big tent. This is a Christian movement. By Christian movement, he means a white Christian movement. That's what he means. Echo Ratso Dragon, howdy. The only way that we're going to win is, and the only way we're going to gain any ground in the culture, the government, taking our towns and cities, and taking our country back, is by putting Jesus Christ first. It's just simple. There is no other way. Torba complained that the establishment is pushing Dave Rubin and Jordan Peter. Imagine, like, yeah. Okay. Oh, this is a good meme. Dave Rubin, Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro calling them the same. Yeah, because obviously Dave Rubin is gay, so that's, that's a no-no for Nazis. Jordan Peterson, I don't know, he kind of seems to flow with that. I don't know why they singled out Jordan Peterson. And Ben Shapiro, of course, because Ben's Jewish. So, yeah, that's a no-no for them. Calling them the usual suspects that they're trying to prop up now as the gatekeepers and influencers in the movement. These people aren't conservative. They're not Christian. Jordan Peterson is a theocrat. So I don't know why he got lumped in there. He's kind of on your team. So don't fall for the bait of Populism Inc. Don't fall for the bait of pseudo-conservatism, big tent nonsense. This is a white, excuse me, Christian movement. This movement needs to be centered on the gospel and truth of God's word and Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior and King. This is the only way that it's going to work. This is some Christian dominionism. This is delusional. The Gap founder stated that we're playing the long game. Roe was a perfect example. Roe was not an overnight win. Roe was like the combination of 50 years of Christian planning and Christian building. So again, I'm going to make the argument for the umpteenth time that these people can and will implement a theocratic authoritarian state. Sad part is if you actually put Jesus Christ first and follow the actual teachings of Jesus, you would probably fix a lot of the social ills. Yeah, but they're not really interested in that. They're interested in power. Wow, how do you control people by acting like you believe this? Yeah. I mean, this guy might be a true believer. He sounds that the connection with reality isn't there, so he might be a true believer. This guy, the Nazi. Torba added that this is an explicitly Christian white movement, because it is an explicitly white. Excuse me, I just have something in my throat. Explicitly white country. From its founding throughout its entire history, it's been an explicitly white. Jesus, I can't seem to speak well today. Christian country. Turn off Ben Shapiro. This is not a Jew. Uh-oh. So finally, we're going to drop the pretext of Judeo-Christian. Level head. Rating with a party of 18. Howdy, everybody. Welcome, folks. If you haven't seen this channel before, we are A Difficult Truth. We do the news, we do the politics Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you guys enjoy and want to hang out and want some 5 free emotes, just go ahead and smack the follow button, all right? Just really quickly, all right? Do it. How's it going? Appreciate it. How was the stream? Folks, and if you don't know, you should definitely check out twitch.tv/levelhead. So funny. I never said howdy, but I feel compelled to say it in this chat. Yeah, it's kind of like my it's kind of like my thing. I should say it's kind of like a habit. Why so dank in this? Howdy. Investigating a local food bank. I'm a reporter and CO. Oh, really? That's interesting. I did not know that. I did not know that. That is so cool. How does that work? Turn off Ben Shapiro. This is not a Judeo-Christian movement. Those terms are contradictory. Oh, no. Responding to an article on his comments by Media Matters, Sorba stressed that Jewish conservatives are not welcome in the conservative movement unless they repent and accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. Yeah. This guy's a Nazi. Quite a rap sheet there. Are you left, right? I'm actually leaning a little bit to the center over here. How does streaming it work? What do you mean? Like streaming what you do? Like streaming journalism? What I would say is if you're like a reporter, I would probably, if you want to do things like that, have you considered Yeah, I'm asking like how does that work? Meaning like what are you reporting on? Like how does that even this is what I do. That's so cool. That's so cool. Being a reporter, being an investigative reporter. Damn. How long have you been doing that? Sometimes it's boring. Local stuff, investigative stuff is way more interesting content. Yeah, I bet. About 3 years. That's so awesome. What do you think about war? War is bad? My general position for war is bad, generally speaking. Yeah, pull up a seat and find out. Anyways, we don't want people who are atheists. We don't want people who are Jewish. Of course, it's always the Jews. We don't want people who are, non-believer, agnostic, whatever. This is an explicitly white, excuse me, Christian movement because it's an explicitly white. Whew, I'm having a rough one today. Christian country. You're free to stay here. Wait, hold on. We're not saying we're going to deport all these people or whatever. You're free to stay here. You just gotta be under our boot. What? You're not gonna be forced to convert or anything like that because we're not gonna force you to convert or anything. But you're going to enjoy the fruits of living under a Christian boot. A Christian theocratic authoritarian boot. But yeah, you're free to do whatever we want. Yeah, I think I do need to hydrate, or at least hydrate every time I see like the words written in a certain way. Neat/word ban me next. I lost 2 chats in the mass bans. I'll never chat again in all the places I could before. War bad indeed. I don't know what that means, but okay. War bad indeed. We want to disciple all nations, which is of course the concept of Christian dominionism, not just America. We're going to take dominion. Oh, yeah, there you go. There you go. There it is. Dominion of this entire planet. Folks, this is some scary shit. If this isn't ringing any type of alarm bells, it should. Our generation of Christians is not buying dispensational Zionist lies. This is part of the Jewish question. We do not have pessimistic. I don't know what this is. Ben Shapiro and other non-believers are not allowed to have a prominent voice in our movement because they don't share our values. So yeah, Jewish people. This is some Nazi shit. And if they're not allowed to have voices in your movement, what's going to happen when they get power? Because 5 seconds ago, he said, well, you're not going to be forced to convert, or nothing like that. You're free to stay here and all this other stuff, but you just won't have a voice. You just shouldn't be allowed to have a voice. How do you think that's going to translate if any of these people should ever gain power? No, that's Gab. Aster, you're thinking of his website. That's where all those people go. Turn off Ben Shapiro. I agree with that part. Nobody should be listening to Ben Shapiro whatsoever. At all. Nobody should be taking Ben Shapiro seriously as like a political commentator or politics. Yeah, Gab is a dumpster fire. That's putting it lightly. It's a cesspool of Nazis. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. This is not a Judeo-Christian movement. Those two terms are actually contradictory. In an interview with Torbo, Mastriano stressed that he wants people to be able to live life as they meaning the Christian dominionists, see fit, not as the governor or president sees fit. But that's not actually true. They want to be the ones who dictate what happens, and they want to implement, and they can, and they will implement a theocratic authoritarian state. Torba added that we have to make Pennsylvania the Florida of the North, with Mastriar responding that he's going to make Ron DeSantis look like an amateur when he's in charge. Yeah. That's not good. That's not good. That's not good at all. The Republican Party, folks. The Republican Party. Voices like this, voices like Torba, the Nazi, are becoming increasingly the norm in the Republican Party. Do you have any instruments handy since the move? I think I have like one maybe. Somewhere. Yeah, this is the Republican Party. This is conservatism. This is the end game for conservatism, folks. This is why we must be. I keep stressing, and I will beat the same drum over and over again. This is incredibly dangerous, and the fact that we're at the point where candidates for governorship are being propped up by a literal Nazi should be concerning to people. White supremacy is a beginning game for conservatives. I mean, clearly that's the overlap, right? No ukulele or mandolin. I have to find it. Scary to know that these people are freely publishing this garbage. Oh yeah, it's completely accessible to a bunch of people, right? Like, Gab itself isn't like a massive platform, like in comparison to like Twitter or in comparison to Facebook. Gab is like miniature, but nonetheless, Gab has a lot of people registered, right? And it is deeply disturbing how open and how mainstream the ties are to politicians that are running for a governorship, which is arguably a pretty powerful position. Yeah, the Southern strategy, basically. Yeah, you're correct. This is just that. Yep. Anyways, not to beat the same drum over and over again, but the Republican Party is just incompatible with democracy. Every time they gain power, more of this is more and more plausible. Like, at what point do we say, hey, we just, enough is enough for this? Enough is enough with this. I'm gonna redeem a cute animal video for a palate cleanser. That's okay. Let me see. I've got an idea.
Does your plugin fade?
We're so far at this point, we've had a beer hall putsch and no accountability. Hitler did at least 18 months in jail for the insurrection. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
I'm cycling around the world, and suddenly I heard meowing coming from behind me.
And this wee guy meowing his heart out occasionally. So aye, days changed. Now it's trying to find a wee pal at home, because some just obviously came up here and dumped them.
My first thoughts was I wasn't going to take her. I just couldn't leave her there on her own.
I'll be my petrol going.
I cleared out a bit of space on my bike and put her in the front of the bag. And then she climbed out and climbed up onto my shoulder when I was cycling. And I got her a passport and a microchip. And I decided to take her on this journey. She just came with me ever since. Everything I do, I've got to do it with her. And it makes the journey more exciting as well, going around the world with a cat. I was really wanting to just get across the world, but now I'm not really bothered how long it takes. Just watch her enjoy it.
I think I broke my ankle. Luckily for me, there's a hospital just across the road. And then God knows what I'm going to do. To see if I can still cycle a bike. So today, went up and picked up our new wheels. This is the first time Nala's seen it. What do you think?
Loves pizza.
What do you think? Going home for a couple of weeks, see the family, let them all meet Nala. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. Now for a 22-hour drive back home.
Yeah,
Going
I have a
through
harness for
Austria,
Kitty
through
too.
Germany, through Belgium, to France, across the tunnel, up England, Scotland.
Sounds more Edinburgh. I do love the kitties, yes. Cats are pretty cool. Great vid, thanks, no problem. Now we can go back to the dooms. Go back to the reality, yeah? Emails revealed that Trump campaign efforts to subvert the Electoral College certification. We would just be sending fake electoral votes. Yep. Advisors to Donald Trump, who were involved in the former president's scheme to overturn the 2020 election, appeared to recognize that their plan was legally dubious, according to emails revealed by the New York Times. The Times had said it reviewed and authenticated dozens of emails that show a frantic effort by aides to Mr. Trump and a coterie of lawyers and supporters outside the White House to send fake electors to the Electoral College certification of the 2020 election. The emails frequently refer to fake electors and those involved seeming to be aware that their efforts had no legal standing. We would just be sending in fake electoral votes so that someone in Congress can make an objection when they start counting votes, wrote Jack Wilenchek, a lawyer who helped organize pro-Trump electors in Arizona, and sent in an email sent on 8 of December of 2020. The email was sent to Boris Epshteyn, a strategic advisor for the Trump campaign. He added an email later that alternative votes is probably a better term than fake votes. Yeah, I guess borrowing from the whole idea of alternative facts. These are alternative electors. They begged for pardons, yep. If this doesn't result in any charges, I don't know what will. It's so frustrating. I agree. This needs to be dealt with a heavy hand, because you just can't do this shit. You can't undermine the most sacred, arguably the most important aspect of a democratic system, and I use that word loosely. You just can't mess with it, which is the electoral process, right? You can't mess with that. Which is why I make the argument that the Republican Party is just incompatible with democracy. Mr. Wilenchek also outlined a plan for another lawyer working with campaign, Kenneth Chesebro, to send fake electors for Mr. Trump, noting that the plan was not legally sound. His idea is basically that all of us, Georgia, Wisconsin, Arizona, and PA, have our electors send in their votes even though their votes aren't legal under federal law because they're not signed by the governor, so that the members of Congress can fight about whether they should be counted on January 6th. Yeah. Wilenchek wrote in an email to Mr. Epshteyn. The Times reported that Mr. Epshteyn was a regular point of contact for John Eastman, the lawyer who came up with the plan to send fake electors to Congress on January 6 of 2021. Others involved in the efforts included lawyers Jenna Ellis, Bruce Marks, and Gary Michael Brown, who was deputy director of the Trump campaign election day operations. Yeah, all these people need to be investigated. And definitely, if there are crimes, then accountability needs to be had. Consequences need to be doled out. The emails show the broad outlines of a shifting plan to override the will of the voters in battleground states that were lost by Mr. Trump. While the effort was ultimately unsuccessful, the repetition of bogus claims about election fraud by Mr. Trump and his campaign would spur the then-President Trump's supporters to do the insurrection. Which, by the way, if you think that they're not going to try again next election, you would be naive. If this goes unpunished and this just is allowed to just slide off with minimum or no accountability, they already have outlined plans for 2024. This is not going to stop. Excellent point, Maple Leaf Dragon. Excellent point. We need someone to stand up in Congress and declare that there's no alternative facts. They're lies. There are no alternative electors. This is electoral fraud. Right, which is, and just to bring it back to an earlier statement, every accusation is a confession, right? It was the Republicans, it was the conservatives who constantly complained about massive voter electoral fraud, that the Democrats were stealing the election, that the Democrats were in cahoots with dead leaders and Smartmatic and Dominion voting systems and all this other stuff. But in reality, it was them who was subverting the will of the people. It was them who was coordinating. It wasn't just like a fringe group. That the party was coordinating to overturn the election. It was them the whole time. Right, screaming about fraud and all this other stuff, and it was them. It was them. A House committee investigating the causes of the insurrection has subpoenaed masses of communications between Trump advisors and key players into the plan to overturn the election. Yeah, like this isn't just about the insurrection. I think the more notable part is this scheme right here. This should be wall to wall coverage. The Republican Party coordinated and was being assisted by several lawyers. By the Trump campaign. There was a lot of people who had to coordinate to make this even possible. The members of Congress who had to be yes men, the members of Congress who were going to be willing to go along with this, all of these people. That's the story. This should be wall to wall coverage nonstop. Mr. Trump and some of his allies are facing a number of investigations related to their efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Earlier this month, a special grand jury investigating potential criminal interference in Georgia's 2020 presidential election results subpoenaed key players in the legal team that advised Mr. Trump during the aftermath. Among this group were Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Cleta Mitchell, Kenneth Chesebro, Jenna Ellis, Senator Lindsey Graham, a Trump ally, was also included. The court filings allege a multi-state coordinated plan by the Trump campaign and the Republican Party to influence the results of the 2020 election in Georgia and elsewhere. A 23-person grand jury was impaneled on May and has already heard from numerous witnesses. Ooh. Anyways, yeah, will this lead to any legitimate consequences? I don't know. In a normal world where rules still apply, where nobody's above the law, then yes, consequences would happen, but who knows? If there are no consequences for the Trump coup, then burn the Constitution now because the dream is over. Yeah, it's essentially what it means is you have carte blanche, to just do it again. Do it again, but be smarter about it. Which they will try again. The Justice Department is also in the midst of a wide-ranging investigation into the attack on the Capitol, the insurrection on the Capitol, and the election interference by Mr. Trump's allies, including the fake elector scheme. Yeah, they need to investigate this, and accountability needs to happen. Like, period. On Tuesday, Attorney General Merrick Garland refused to rule out charging Mr. Trump as part of the investigation when asked by NBC's Lester Holt if indicting a former president would tear the country apart. Fuck that. I don't give a shit. If the guy's committing crimes, if the guy's doing the crimes, he's not above the law. He's not a king. He's not a god. The whole point is if you break the law, if you try to subvert democracy, consequences should be doled out. Period. Like, wait a minute, what kind of question is that? What kind of question is that? Excuse me, sir, would you rule out indicting a former president if it means it would tear the country apart? What? I mean, did he do the crime? Is there evidence that's mounting and pointing to the fact that he has been engaging in criminal activity? Yeah, okay, then that's it. What framing is that? That's bizarre. Anyways. I hope there are consequences. That's the best I can do. Alright, let's piggyback off that. These Trump people are effing loose cannons, though. Still no reasons to charge. Oh, yeah, like 100%. I don't care. They are loose cannons, and if they do something silly, then they should be charged too. Get effed. If Trump ends up doing ends up getting charged, and these people want to do some wild stuff, then they should be charged too. There's no room for what is it? We don't negotiate with terrorists, okay? We do not negotiate with terrorists. Lisa, you're tearing me apart. Alright, so to piggyback off that, Justice Department investigation into January 6th now encompasses communications of allies of Trump. Okie doke. The Justice Department criminal investigation into the insurrection now includes questions for witnesses about the communications of people close to then President Trump and his re-election campaign. I think that they're going to try that angle with the whole fake elector thing. The news, first reported by the Washington Post, was confirmed to CBS by a U.S. government official familiar with the investigation and a source with knowledge of what's being presented by the Justice Department to a grand jury. It is not evident that Trump himself is a target of the investigation, only that prosecutors are asking questions related to him and his aides. Yeah, but, what name that movie? I couldn't if my life depended on it. This is truly BS. There are still people paying off court cases where they downloaded entire Sandman. Oh yeah, but these, yeah, they tried to steal an election, and here we are. Yep. One part of the investigation concerns the efforts to swap out electors. Yes, so this is kind of piggybacking off that other story. Electors won by President Biden in several battleground states for fake electors who supported Trump. Another is examining the actions surrounding the January 6th insurrection, when thousands of Trump supporters, many armed, there were definitely armed supporters. So, like, this conservative narrative that nobody was armed is complete bullshit. Overran the Capitol on the day that Congress was to count the electoral ballots and affirm Biden's victory in 2020. According to the source close to the grand jury witness, among topics of interest to federal prosecutors are Trump's discussions with law professor John Eastman, who came up with the plan to try to involve Vice President Mike Pence in an attempt to keep Trump in power, and pressure exerted on Pence, who presided over the counting of the electoral ballots on January 6th. The news follows multiple actions by law enforcement targeting those alleged to be connected to Trump's attempt to stay in power. One could also say another way of framing this is attempted coup, including the seizure of John Eastman's phone and recent raid of the Virginia home of former Justice Department official Jeffrey Clark. Mark Short, Pence's former chief of staff, testified before a Washington, D.C. grand jury last week under a subpoena as part of the investigation. A person familiar with the probe confirmed to CBS News. The report by the Post about the Justice Department's investigation was published on Tuesday, hours after the former president's return to Washington, D.C. for the first time since he had left the end of his presidency in late January of 21. I always say I ran the second time and I did much better. You lost. Trump said at an event at the America First Policy Institute, and you know what? That's going to be a story for a long time. What a disgrace it was, but yeah, you are a disgrace. We may have to do it again. I think he's going to run. I think he's going to run. Yeah, prosecute them all. Sure. Their lies have cost many election workers their careers and ruined relationships in small communities. Our county clerk resigned. That's so sad. I agree. That's messed up. What a POS. This guy is a POS. The January 6th committee has examined these matters separately in a series of 8 public hearings. Among the information Among the information that has emerged is testimony by GOP Arizona Speaker Rusty Bowers about a plan undertaken by Trump and his allies to replace the Arizona Biden electors with phony Trump electors. Bowers has refused to take part in the plot despite the pressure exerted on him by Trump personal lawyer Rudy Giuliani. And what if he did want to play ball? Like, jeez. The committee has also uncovered an attempt to deliver fake Wisconsin electoral ballots to Pence on January 6th. Pence, urged by Trump and his allies to reject the ballots from battleground states won by Mr. Biden, also refused to take part in the scheme. Like, the idea that like the election is hanging on a thread of norms is just wild to me. Like, it blows my mind every time I think about the concept. Or every time I think about this, it just blows my mind, the fact that like our democratic norms were hanging in the balance of just like a handful of people doing the right thing, or like doing the right thing, meaning like not engaging in a coup, not playing ball. The fact that our electoral college is just based on norms. Right, a series of, a better way of wording it, a series of handshakes and gentlemen agreements. That's what kept our the democracy in place. Holy yikes. And along comes like Trump and just like poo-poos on all that. Right, the coup didn't succeed, so no harm, no foul. Norms are for civilized society, so what does that say about us now? Woo. I agree. Pure insanity. I think that makes it fair to say it's not a democracy. I tend to agree with that, but I use that word loosely. Attorney General Merrick Garland has only spoken broadly about the investigation, reiterating in an interview with Lester Holt Tuesday, that the Justice Department has been moving urgently to learn everything we can about this period and to bring to justice everybody who was criminally responsible for interfering with the peaceful transfer of power from one administration to another. Yeah, he gave no indication that Trump, a former president, would receive any special consideration, given the status as well as possibility that he might run again. Yeah, like, who cares? We pursue justice without fear or favor. We intend to hold everyone and anyone who is criminally responsible for the events surrounding January 6th or for any attempt to interfere with the lawful transfer of power from one administration to another accountable. That's what we do. Well, I hope so, because we kind of need that right now. We don't pay attention to other issues with respect to that. Well, we kind of need that, so I hope so. The Electoral College in the Senate makes us fundamentally undemocratic, but bicameral legislature with a load of horseshit. I agree. And more so with the idea that the Electoral College is just unnecessary and a barrier to democracy. We have a democratic oligarchy or something like that. It's like a facade where there is a thread, there's some kind of semblance of democracy. It's just, I don't believe it's a complete democracy. We aren't as democratic as we'd like to admit. Talk is cheap, that's true. That's true. It's not so much Trump, but his constant speeches who's paying for it and the MAGA fools who follow Trump. Yeah, but this is more than him. I agree with that. Yeah, we get to choose the version of corruption. Yeah, that's basically what it is. Yeah, that's about that's about the extent of democracy that we're allowed. I agree with that. That's the extent of democracy that we're allowed to have. Folks, really quickly, if you have a moment, if you have a moment and haven't done so already, please consider hitting the follow button. It really does help us out. Please consider heading on over to our YouTube channel, hitting the subscribe button. It's free. It takes 5 seconds. It really does help us out. Spread the word far and wide. If you enjoy this content, spread the word. Bring a friend. We are here Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, doing the news, doing the politics. Ooh, I appreciate that, Alia, with the 10 biddies. Thank you so much. That's why many in political science refer to more specifically as a polyarchy. Most states sit in between the realm of dictatorship and democracy. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Fair point. And the choices we're given are mild and extra spice. Yeah. Yeah. That doesn't mean we don't, leave that on the table. It means that the choices are shite. That's what it means. Matt Gaetz, who is under investigation for possible sex trafficking of a minor, was among 20 Republicans to vote against reauthorizing a sex trafficking law because, of course. Remember, folks, every accusation just turns out to be another confession. The Republican Party has tried to paint or tried to make this whole thing like, oh, the lefties are a bunch of groomers and pedos and all this other stuff. And, oops, uh-oh. Ooh, damn, it was actually you. Damn. Shocking, I know. Democracy, according to Robert Dahl, was an idea state. A government completely responsive to citizens with no boundaries or barriers. Polyarchy is a rule of the many with the boundaries and barriers allowing certain people more or less voice within the government. Yeah, I think I can track what you're. I think I can pick up what you're putting down. Ooh. Representative Matt Gaetz was one of 20 Republicans who voted no to reauthorizing the anti-human trafficking law on Wednesday. The Frederick Douglass Trafficking Victims Prevention and Protection Reauthorization Act of 2022 was approved in the House for reauthorization with a massive majority of 401 to 20 votes. The act combats human trafficking, particularly sex trafficking, through severe penalties for perpetrators and provides support services for victims. It first came into law as the Victims of Trafficking and Violence Protection Act of 2000. When it passed the House and Senate with almost no opposition, has been reauthorized multiple times without significant challenge. Right, it's almost always projection. Every accusation just is a confession. Projection and deflection, that's right. Remember, folks, the GOP stands for gaslight, obstruct, and project. Did you see the thing with Mark Short said about Matt Gaetz? No, but you need to send that to me. Or post it, actually. You have a cool little diamond on you. Post it. Most of the time, the distinction doesn't matter, but I suppose it gains relevance when people start critiquing how democratic a state is. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, throw that over here, Echo Wrestle Dragon. And Gaetz has been under federal investigation since 2020 over the question of whether or not he had sex with a minor and whether he paid for her to cross state lines. Paying for a minor to travel interstate for sex would count as sex trafficking. Oof. Gaetz has not been charged with anything and has consistently denied any wrongdoing. A former associate, Joel Greenberg, whom Gaetz once called his wingman, has pleaded guilty to 6 charges, including sex trafficking a minor. Oh boy. Yikes. Politico reported Greenberg's sentencing has been delayed in order to cooperate with the investigation into Gaetz. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Gates did not immediately respond to the insider's query about the vote made outside the normal U.S. working hours. Yeah, this is also weird. How they can do fly-by-night votes. About why he voted no. He voted no because he's probably, it's probably a red flag. There's probably some self-report going on over here. Have you seen the stuff here in the UK with Keir Starmer sacking one of his MPs who dared to turn up the picket lines to support rail workers and do interviews? Been quite the big backlash from Labour people. No, but I can imagine. Yikes. And Gates did not speak in a 40-minute debate on the day of the vote. In 2017, Gates cast the only no vote on another anti-trafficking law, as the Pensacola News Journal reported at the time. The law enshrined the creation of anti-trafficking resources within the Department of Transportation. In that instance, Gates pointed to his own actions in Florida, which he said improved prosecutors' ability to bring cases against sex traffickers. Allegedly, hypothetically, do you mean like yourself? Like, allegedly? That's kind of strange. Voting against a bill that would provide the Department of Transportation the ability to assist with, sex trafficking or anti-trafficking resources to the Department of Transportation when you're being accused or you're being investigated for trafficking across state lines. Oh, it's not looking good for you, my friend. It is not looking good. He also said that handling this at the federal level was mission creep on issues that states should handle per the paper. Okay, buddy. Nice cop-out. The full list of who voted no. The usual suspects. I don't know who Brian Babin is. Andy Biggs. Lauren Boebert. Mo Brooks, of course. Ken Buck. Andrew Clyde. Matt Gaetz, of course. Louis Gohmert, of course. Paul Gosar. Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course. The classics. Andy Harris. Jody Heiss. Thomas Massey. McClintock, of course. Mary Miller. Nels. Troy Nels. Ralph Norman. Scott Perry, of course. Chip Roy, of course. And Van Taylor. Roy was the only no voter to speak at the debate. He called the issue critically important, but suggested he hadn't reviewed the bill and had other factors at play involving the floor and spending and other stuff affected his decision. Yikes. Could that other stuff be some self-reporting going on over here?
Right now at
referred. Matt Gaetz, obviously to take it back to Washington, where you just referred. Matt Gaetz, obviously very loyal Trump ally at this point,
That's
fired
right.
at the vice president, the former vice president today, and the comments.
And allegedly under investigation for sex trafficking a minor. Hey, thanks for the sub.
President Pence was making. Here's what Matt Gaetz said.
Our America is proudly ultra MAGA, not some low energy roadside rhino safari.
What?
On that note, let me just say what everybody here knows. Mike Pence will never be president. Nice guy, not a leader.
Mark?
Well, I don't know if Mike Pence will run for president in 2024, but I don't think Matt Gaetz will have an impact on that. In fact, I'd be surprised if he was still voting. It's more likely he'll be in prison for child sex trafficking by 2024. And I'm actually surprised that Florida law enforcement still allows him to speak to teenage conferences like that. So I'm not too worried about Matt Gaetz. Thanks.
Oh, no. Oof. I think you should talk about how Biden's poor immigration policy is the reason for such large spike in human trafficking. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what that means. Like, Biden's poor immigration policy, the same that Trump had? Because Biden's immigration policy has been pretty much the same as Trump's. It's too bad we can't apply some of those nice international standards for human rights to some of the laws we pass in Congress. Human rights? What a LARPy username, too. Come take my second. Anyways, to address that question, funny enough, like, we're talking about Matt Gaetz, a Republican congressperson who's under investigation for alleged sex trafficking of a minor. And clown over here comes at me with Biden. Biden's immigration policy is pretty much the same as Trump's. Okay, there have been some minor changes, but most of the policies. Most of the policies are basically the same. Like, there's no. I thought that mic drop. That was a pretty good mic drop. Yeah, that was pretty good. I agree. That was pretty good. It's like, listen, bro. How about you worry about yourself and being an alleged, being an alleged nonce. Why don't you worry about that? All right. Oh, man. The policies are the same because they didn't bother to try to change them. Yep. Like, save for some minor things. I think so far the most, like, I think the biggest W that we can say is that they took away the Remain in Mexico thing recently because of the Supreme Court. But, like, overall, I think, like, just in a general sense, a lot of the policies are mostly the same. Like, for the most part. I mean, feel free to prove me wrong, but it's just it's what gets me is that the clown that came in here that was flagged by PasadaBot because PasadaBot is based and will take out trolls with prejudice. I'm doing a story about Matt Gaetz being under investigation for sex trafficking of a minor, and they come in here talking about, but Biden. Nobody. You're gonna have to answer for that. That's your boy, Matt Gaetz. Answer for him. Defend that. Weak sauce arguments. If you're gonna come at the king, you better not miss. Jesus. New studies bolster theory that coronavirus emerged from the wild, not a lab. Alex Jones. Two new studies provide more evidence that the coronavirus pandemic originated in a Wuhan, China market where live animals are sold, further bolstering the theory that the virus emerged in the wild rather than escaping a Chinese lab, which had I had questions about that theory. Yeah. The research published online on Tuesday by journal Science shows that the Huanan seafood wholesale market was likely the early epicenter of the scourge that has now killed 6.4 million people around the world. Scientists conclude that the virus that causes COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2 likely spilled from animals into people 2 separate times. Huh. Well, that's interesting. All this evidence tells us the same thing. It points right to this particular market in the middle of Wuhan, said Christian Anderson, a professor in the Department of Immunology and Microbiology at Scripps Research and co-author of one of the studies. I was quite convinced of the lab leak myself until we dove into this very carefully and looked at it much closer. Damn, don't you love fucking science? Look at that. Based and poggers. In one study, which incorporated data collected by Chinese scientists, University of Arizona evolutionary biologist Michael Warby and his colleagues used mapping tools to estimate the locations of more than 150 of the earliest reported cases from December of 2019. They also mapped cases from January and February of 2020 using data from a social media app that created a channel for people with COVID to get help. They asked of all locations that had early cases, of all the locations that the early cases could have lived, where did they live? And it turned out when we were able to look into this, there was this extraordinary pattern where the highest density of cases was both extremely near and very centered to this market, Warby said at a press briefing. Crucially, this applies to both to all cases in December and also to cases with no known links to the market. And this is an indication that the virus started spreading in people who worked at the market, but then started to spread to the local community, which would make sense. Anderson said that they found the case clusters inside the market too, and the clustering is very, very specific to the parts of the market where they now know people were selling wildlife such as raccoon dogs that are susceptible to infection with coronavirus. Huh. So it wasn't a pangolin. Newsflash: all viruses come from the wild. It's whether or not humans decide to tinker with them afterwards. That's true. In the other study, scientists analyzed the genomic diversity of the virus inside and outside of China, starting with the earliest sampled genomes in December of 2019 and extending through mid-February of 2020. They found that 2 lineages, A and B, marked the pandemic's beginning in Wuhan. Study co-author Joel Wertheim, a viral evolution expert at the University of California, San Diego, pointed out that lineage A is more genetically similar to bat coronavirus, but lineage B appears to have begun spreading earlier in humans, particularly at the market. So we got 2 points. That's very interesting. I did not know that. That is pretty cool. Knowledge is so is so important, folks. I can't stress this enough, and I can't encourage this enough to seek out knowledge from the experts as much as possible, okay? If you're not an expert, well, that's okay, neither am I. So you point to the experts who know what they're doing. All right, folks. We did it. It is slightly past 7:30, so I do gotta get going. Let me start thanking all the wonderful folks here. Thank you so much for being in chat. Again, if you guys enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. It does help us out. Spread the word far and wide. Bring a friend Monday to Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with the exception of tomorrow. Tomorrow's stream, I'm not quite sure 100%. I think the worst that's going to happen is that I might do a rerun of an interview that I did with the Beckosphere. The Beckosphere, by the way, is coming on this channel next week, Wednesday, August 3rd. So stay tuned, folks. If you guys want to keep up with the channel, I will be making announcements on the Discord. So that's the best way to keep up with the channel. And of course, again, hit the follow button, do the follows, do the YouTubes. I appreciate all the support. Thanks to all the new follows. Why So Dankness? I appreciate that. Levelhead with a raid of 18 people. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Folks, if you have a moment, go follow twitch.tv/levelhead. Alio with the 10 biddies. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Also, viral labs don't work on one kind of virus at a time. The breaking news from the Wuhan is that had insufficient safety measures for the work that they were doing. That's right. That's right. That's kind of like the one of the crumbs that made that conspiracy. Well, it wasn't a conspiracy theory, but like that made that hypotheses take ground. But as we found out, and as we did more research, we started to realize that not quite. It wasn't like a lab leak or anything like that. Not as far as the evidence points to. Yeah, that doesn't seem to be the case. All right, folks. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Stay with me, all right? We're going on a raid. See ya. Bye. Hello, my friend. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Hang tight, folks. If you guys are just joining, hang tight, all right? We're going to continue the chill vibes. All right, folks. Let's go over to Riverboat Jack. They are phenomenal. I love her content. Let's go. Ready? We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya.